Welcome to English Insight Podcast. Learn English through story and real growth. In today's video, you're not just going to practice English. You're going to unlearn years of mistakes that have silently stopped you from speaking fluently. This session is designed to improve not only your listening and vocabulary, but also your mindset, confidence, and the way you think in English. Whether you're a beginner or somewhere in between, put on your headphones, maybe open a notebook, and get ready, because what you're about to hear may completely change how you learn English from today onward. By the end of this session, you will have learned 10 plus powerful English expressions, understood a real-life learning story, and most importantly, felt less afraid and more confident about speaking English naturally. Ready? Let's start. Why hard work isn't making you fluent? Let me ask you something important. Have you ever studied English for years, memorized hundreds of words, watched lessons, completed grammar exercises, yet still felt blocked when it was time to speak? If yes, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not bad at English. The truth is uncomfortable, but freeing. Most people don't fail at English because they're lazy or untalented. They fail because they were taught the wrong way. Schools, courses, even many online teachers focus on information, not transformation. They teach rules before meaning, accuracy before confidence, and perfection before communication. And slowly, without realizing it, learners develop a silent fear, the fear of making mistakes. And once fear enters the learning process, progress slows down. Because language is not built by pressure. Language is built by exposure, emotion, and repetition. The invisible trap most learners never escape. Here's a mistake almost everyone makes, and no one warns you about it. They try to think in their native language first, then translate into English. At the beginning, this feels logical, safe, comfortable. But over time, it becomes a prison. Your brain gets used to translating instead of communicating. You know the words, but you can't use them fast enough. You understand English, but you can't respond naturally. This is why conversations feel stressful. This is why your mind goes blank. This is why English feels harder than it should. Fluent speakers don't translate. They react. And the secret is not intelligence. It's training the brain differently. A story that changes everything. Let me tell you a short story. There was a learner who studied English for almost 6 years. Grammar books, vocabulary lists, exams, certificates. But when a foreigner asked a simple question, "How are you?" the learner froze. One day, out of frustration, this learner stopped studying grammar completely. No rules, no exercises. Instead, they started listening, stories, podcasts, real conversations. They repeated phrases out loud. They copied rhythm, emotion, tone. For weeks, nothing seemed to change. Then suddenly something clicked. They answered questions without translating. They spoke without planning every sentence. They made mistakes, but didn't panic. That was the moment English stopped being a subject and started becoming a language. The shift that separates fluent speakers from learners. Here is the shift that changes everything. Stop learning English to be correct. Start learning English to be clear. Clarity comes before perfection. Communication comes before grammar. Confidence comes before accuracy. Children don't learn languages by studying rules. They learn by listening, copying, and using. And the good news? Your brain can still learn the same way at any age. But only if you stop fighting it. What comes next, and why you should keep listening. In the next part of this video, we're going to uncover the exact method fluent speakers use without realizing it. Why mistakes are not your enemy, but your fastest teacher. And how to train your brain to think in English naturally, step by step. If you've ever felt stuck. If you've ever doubted yourself. If you've ever thought, maybe English is not for me. Stay with me, because you're about to discover that you were never bad at English. You were just learning it the wrong way. At this point, something important should already feel different inside you. Not because you suddenly learn new grammar rules. Not because you memorize more vocabulary. But because for the first time, someone explained why your effort wasn't giving you results. Now let's go deeper, because understanding the problem is only half of the transformation. Why your brain resists speaking English. Here's a truth most teachers never explain. Your brain's number one job is to protect you, not to make you fluent. When you try to speak English and worry about mistakes, your brain reads that situation as danger. Not physical danger, but social danger. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of sounding stupid. Fear of being judged. So what does the brain do? It shuts down creativity. It slows your speech. It blocks access to words you already know. That blank mind feeling? That's not lack of knowledge. That's fear activating the survival system. And here's the shocking part. The more you force yourself to be perfect, the stronger this fear becomes. That's why many people understand English very well, but sound completely different when they speak. The real reason listening is more powerful than studying. This is where most learners make another critical mistake. They listen to English passively, as background noise. Or they avoid listening because they don't understand everything. But fluent speakers didn't understand everything either, at first. The difference is this. They allowed confusion without panic. When you listen without trying to control every word, your brain starts doing something incredible. It begins to recognize patterns. It learns how sentences feel, not just how they are built. This is how pronunciation improves without effort. This is how grammar becomes automatic. This is how thinking in English starts naturally. You don't need to understand 100%. You need to understand enough, repeatedly. The dangerous myth of, one day I'll be ready. Let me challenge a belief that silently destroys progress. One day, when my English is better, I'll start speaking. That day never comes, because speaking is not the result of fluency. Speaking is the cause of fluency. Every fluent speaker you admire once sounded broken. Every confident voice once made embarrassing mistakes. The only difference is they didn't wait for permission. They spoke before they felt ready. They learned while sounding imperfect. And that choice, that decision, changed everything. How to train your brain the right way. So what should you actually do? Not more grammar drills. Not more isolated vocabulary lists. You train English the same way athletes train muscles, in context. Short stories, real conversations, repeated phrases, emotion, voice, rhythm. Instead of asking, "Is this sentence correct?" ask, "Is this sentence useful?" Instead of memorizing words, memorize how words live together. And most importantly, speak out loud, even when you're alone. Your brain needs movement, sound, and repetition to rewire itself. Silence slows learning. Voice accelerates it. Why confidence comes before fluency. Here's a powerful shift. Confidence is not the reward for fluency. Fluency is the reward for confidence. The moment you stop punishing yourself for mistakes, your speed increases. The moment you accept imperfection, your flow improves. The moment you relax, English becomes lighter. This is not motivation talk. This is neuroscience. A relaxed brain learns faster. What this means for you right now. If you remember only one thing from this entire session, let it be this. You don't need to learn more English. You need to learn English differently. You don't need permission to speak. You don't need perfect grammar to be understood. You don't need talent. You need the right process. And you've already started it. Final thought before we end. Think about this question and don't answer it quickly. What would change in your life if English stopped being scary? More opportunities? More confidence? A new identity? That future is not far. It begins the moment you stop learning English the wrong way and start trusting the process. Stay with English Insight Podcast. This is only the beginning.